Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is Leadership of the Heart. And isn't it so relevant, timely, and important for us to look within, to lead with our heart, to lift up each other, and really be part of a global community as opposed to just walking around as individuals concerned about ourselves. Joining me for this show each and every week is my dear friend and now my co-author for a new book that we are writing for children to teach them listening skills. She's a transformation and leadership host, and she is joining us from New Zealand, which is so cool because she's over there and it's already the next day and we're back here in today. So let's welcome her to the program. Nice to see you.
Hello, it is really nice to see you and being here with everybody, listeners and viewers alike.
Absolutely. And I just want to clarify, you're a transformation and leadership coach and a TV host. Coach and host. I got a little confused there.
You combined all of it. It's so much easier to say.
I just made a new word. I love that. So Mariska, we have a great guest today. We have some really interesting discussion topics that we're going to be really looking into. But before we bring out Alan Gordon, I want to spotlight you. And for people who are joining us for the very first time, as you know, we have 2 new radio channels. Please share a little bit about the work that you do here on this platform, USA Global TV and Radio, and also what you're doing when you're not hanging out with me.
Ooh. Okay, well, when I am on the platform, I am on a show called Talking Heads. So that's a platform where experts get to share some knowledge and help our community to level themselves up in various different ways. And at the moment, we are looking at effective communication within my little slot that I have, and that is on Wednesdays, Eastern time. Of course, that would be on Thursdays here in New Zealand. Then I'm also co-hosting with Dr. JACALYN on this show, Leadership of the Heart. And as she mentioned, we have started co-creating a children's book, which I'm really excited about, and it's going to be so much fun. So really excited to bring that out. And then, of course, when I am not on the platform spending time with Dr. JACALYN, I am coaching individuals and teams to help them level up the way that they lead and within their own space as leaders and individuals in our communities and in corporations. So that's me.
It's beautiful. Brilliant. Thank you again. And for people who don't know, Mariska and I actually met several years ago when we were going through the certification process to be life and career coaches. So she started coaching me, and she's the person who helped me put together a plan to leave my corporate job in 2020. And it turned out it was literally the week before the pandemic shut everything down. And here we are today, still laughing about it. All right, I want to talk a little bit about our discussion topics for today. We're going to bring out our guests. We're going to talk about the history of enlightenment, the purpose of Utopia University, and our guests will explain more, and how NFTs, non-fungible tokens, present a new paradigm of abundance, which is really cool. We've actually looked at NFTs on a couple of programs, and it's a really neat way for artists and creatives to have another revenue stream. So we'll talk about that. And also we're going to talk about the power of listening, which you know is so near and dear to my heart. So without further ado, let us welcome Alan Gordon. He's the founder of Utopia University. He's the author of The Cycle of Mind, and he's also a podcast host. Welcome, Alan. Hi.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here with both of you.
So nice to have you here with us. And I just want to start off, first of all, by asking you to explain Utopia University. What is it? What do you do there?
Sure. Utopia University is it's a private organization that is very flexible in its thinking. It's an inner organization. So our mission is to pass enlightenment wisdom to anybody who wants it, anybody in the world, without any barriers to receiving this wisdom. And secondly, we want to preserve this enlightenment wisdom because much of it has been lost. You mentioned a little bit about the history of enlightenment. Much of enlightenment wisdom has been lost and confused and kind of conglomerated now onto, one giant Google. There's a lot of subtlety to enlightenment. So the goal is to preserve that enlightenment wisdom, pass it on to our members, and then live our own lives according to enlightened principles, and also to run Utopia University as an organization based on those enlightenment principles.
Ooh, brilliant. Thank you so much. And I'm wondering, what was the catalyst that spawned this great idea and this wonderful platform that you're running?
Yeah, thank you. So for many, many years, I'm a student of history, and I'm also a student of mind. I've been for many, many years seeking and trying to sort through the historical veracity of wisdom. And in fact, the first time I went to college, I did drop out. So the first time I dropped out of college, I was a religion major. I was just really always curious about what's the source of all this knowledge? Where does it all come from? Maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I stumbled on a civilization several hundred years ago that has just not even been mentioned in history. And I started looking into it a little bit more, and I started to see some of the Enlightenment teachings that were coming out of that time from India, from China, and from this area where this enlightened king lived. And just realized, hey, the truth about history is we see what historians want us to see. They put up the people, the events, the values, the principles, and that's the history that we learn. But if you look behind all that, you'll see that there's a much, much more history to be had. And history really focuses on outer things like birthdays and deaths and conquests and revolutions and, all just if you weren't invaded, I guess you don't really count as a real country, because it just doesn't count. But what I did is kind of pull everything apart and let's start to look at the things that they're not telling us about and what they don't talk about. And when I say they, I mean, history in general. There's no real discussion of this inner teachings, the inner teachings of enlightenment, which have been consistently taught, for 3,500, 4,000 years. And in our society, we really don't really come close to them. And I want to bring those teachings of enlightenment closer to us.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Thank you so much.
Watch the podcast and you'll get the whole story.
Mariska, I know you have a question. I just want to follow up on what you just said. So much of what we hear, what we experience is that we have to go somewhere by ourselves, lock ourselves away, go on a retreat, go to a cabin in the woods, do some soul searching. But that's not necessarily true, is it, to become enlightened? You can actually do that in other ways, and that's how you really help people.
Yeah, that's called, I call those separation systems of enlightenment, where you separate yourself from your obligations, your responsibilities, your relationships. In the old days in India, not picking on anybody, but if you were a householder, meaning married and had children and had to go to work every day, enlightenment was not something for you. It was something for people that were able to give, that were fortunate enough, let's say, to have a life where they could give everything up or become a recluse or go up on a mountain or, follow their teacher and couch surf, from city to city while the teacher, gives their lecture. But if you look at history, all our religions are based on one person who became enlightened. And then they're trying to share it with us. And now the religion's just based on the one person who became enlightened. The truth is that religion should teach all of us how to become enlightened. And what happens is as soon as you form a religion, it forms an outer casing around the the wisdom or the enlightenment. So what we want to do is break apart the institution and look at the actual teachings themselves and have people realize that, in fact, if you were to go learn enlightenment 1,000 years ago, the very first thing you would learn is there's an outer world and an inner world. We are completely invested in our outer world, and particularly in our culture, we don't give our inner world any thought whatsoever. But now you can learn to let go of the outer world and go somewhere which is just as valid, just as real, just as important, in fact, more important, which is your inner world. And it's in that inner world where all that peace and balance and abundance always stays. And it's just waiting for you to come back to it.
I love this.
Absolutely. And that, JACALYN, if I may, made me wonder about, you mentioned going off to a mountaintop, which apparently we don't need to do. So as a person with a household, this is something that is available to us, or even a person in a corporation or having a job, right? We don't need to give this up and think that we need to spend all our time going on this search. So how do we do this? Where do we start?
Yeah, I mean, most people realistically don't have 45 minutes in the morning to meditate and 45 minutes at night and, to calm your mind and be like a lake, a still lake, and a mirror. Well, that's really not attainable. It's great for people that can do it. And a lot of people do break through and kind of experience that quietness of mind. But for the average person, that's simply not realistic and leads to years and decades of being frustrated with yourself. I'm trying everything I can and I'm still all frustrated and upset. So what you have to do, and I talked about this in the book, The Cycle of Mind, mind creates the reality that you experience. So all of your subconscious beliefs, all of your attitudes, your historical perspective, your culture, all these things create your beliefs, which then create your experience of reality. So what we have to do, and in the Cycle of Mind, I talked about it, if you just touch mind, even if you only have 30 seconds a day, just put positive thoughts into your mind. And in the Cycle of Mind, I revealed what's called a thought matrix. And in that thought matrix, you'll see things like generosity, compassion, being thoughtful, health, serving others, helping others, being a servant. Gratitude is another thing. So these are things we typically, like I say, our society doesn't really value these things. These are inner values, inner strengths. But just pick one, just say generosity. If you just think about generosity, even if you only have 30 seconds in the morning, just think about being generous. Just think about what that means to you for 30 seconds. And then again, before you go to sleep. But before you go to sleep, you say, hey, how did I do today? Was I generous today? Did I have any opportunities to be generous? And when you do this for a few days, what you'll find after about the third or fourth day is in the middle of the day, let's say you'll be at a restaurant and here comes the check-in with the tip. So instead of calculating and, being really serious, 15%, but the service was a little slow, I'll give them, 11.5%. Instead of that, you just say, hey, you know what? This is a working mom. She's got 2 kids. She's here working. God bless her. She needs an extra dollar more than I do. Let's just leave a generous tip. So now by the end of the day, you say, how did I do being generous? And you say, hey, give myself an A+. I went to the restaurant. I put an extra $2 on the tip. So you can actually train yourself. And this is how you have to do it because you can't go to a mountain. You have the kids running around and everything. So you have to train yourself a little bit at a time, a few minutes a day at a time. And it does take work and it does take time. But eventually you can train yourself to focus on these deep inner values until you get to the point within a few weeks where subconscious mind starts to take ownership. And now you get to the next generous situation. It's not a decision anymore. You now have become a generous person. You always think about generosity first. And in a few short weeks, you can transform your character. It's the same with health. It's the same with compassion. It's the same with serving others. You just think about these things just a little bit in a structured way using the thought matrix in the morning and at night. And within a few weeks, you start to notice not only are you doing it, but all of a sudden you're being compelled now. What are ways I can be generous? How can I look around and be compassionate? What else? How can I volunteer now? Because I have this thing. I really want to help people. And it all of a sudden changes you from the inside. And that's really where we have to start the change. And the difference between isolation enlightenment and active enlightenment is you build this change within, and then you bring those inner values to all of your day-to-day interactions. So for example, example, when a child screams, do you just react and scream back and, or, give them food, here, eat, stop crying? Or do you bring your compassion and your generosity and your kindness and your thoughtfulness, and just like we were talking about, Dr. Chow, just listen to them, just let them express themselves, listen to them, take your own need to constantly control everything out of the equation, and just go within. Here's a child that's crying, let me find out what's wrong. Right? Doesn't affect me, affects the child. Let me find out what's wrong, and bring these compassionate inner values to all of your relationships, your obligations, and your responsibilities.
I love that you just shared that. And two thoughts come to mind. The first is, and I remember feeling this quite frequently when I was in my corporate career, is that you work so hard so you can go on vacation. And when you're preparing for the vacation, you're a nervous wreck because you have to get this done and that done. Then you go on the vacation and you need a couple of days just to unwind because you're so stressed out. And then you have the vacation, and then you need another vacation because you're so stressed out leaving the vacation. And I always thought to myself, there has to be a better way. And to me, I don't vacation. I'm vacation years, but I feel like I'm always on vacation because I feel like inside I have this calm and this peace. And I do believe a lot of it has to do with thinking about other people and how can I help other people. So it's something that I think, to your point, you can help someone change the way they're thinking, change their perspective, and embrace this. So this is something that is a way of life. Is that correct?
Yes, you have to before you can change the world, you have to change yourself, right? And before you can tell your kids that they're doing something wrong, you have to fix yourself internally. Or before you're, going to complain about your husband and wife, you think about you, and think about the vibrations that you're putting out there. So in separation systems of enlightenment, you go in and you create no vibrations. Don't think anything, don't say anything, don't do anything, don't get upset by anything, don't love anything, don't hate anything, just be completely like a calm mirrored lake. But that's not practical. So what you have to do is go in, build these characteristics, and you choose the characteristics that you want, but they're generally going to be gratitude, compassion, generosity, thoughtfulness, health. And we haven't even talked about health yet, which is super important. But when you internalize these things, now you can bring them to each situation. And it's no longer you reacting, it's you listening to the situation, because you're not reactive anymore. And all this takes time. But the less reactive you are, the more thoughtful you are, and the more you can bring your inner enlightenment to each interaction during the day.
Thank you, Alan. Mariska?
This actually reminded me of the comparisons that you draw between going into the cave, top of the mountain type of situation. Yes, you are like a mirror, but as soon as you expose yourself back into society, that mirror-like state might shatter because you haven't really built up this muscle that you do in active enlightenment, where you get used to learning how to engage with your environment while also being peaceful inside. I'm not sure. It's something that I've noticed, but I'm not sure whether I'm on the right track. Is there some things around that you have experienced yourself, or maybe seen with others?
Sure. And the reason, Mariska, that happens when you come back from your vacation and everything's calm and placid is now you're immersed back into the outer world, and all of the outer things are important. But the truth is, the outer things are not important at all. What's important is inner. And you feel the problem, as I said, in the cycle of mind, most people are just afraid to let go of the mental ropes that bind them to the world. They hang on so tightly to every last thing. I can't stop. I can't let go. Oh my gosh, I just can't. I just have to be the way I am. But the more you let go of the outer world, the more you realize there's a better inner world inside, of abundance and peace and balance and enlightenment, that just feels better. It's healthier, and it's healthier for everybody around you. So you have to, enlightened people lived in an inner world. Things would happen around them and it didn't affect them because they live in an inner world. We can do the same thing if we place importance and emphasis on the inner world. And that kind of boils back to the purpose of Utopia University, to be part of a discussion, to be part of an organization which talks about these principles of compassion and generosity and enlightenment, things that they don't talk about, nobody else talks about in the outer world. You don't go to work for 8 hours and hey, let's be generous and compassionate. No, it's everything's frenetic and we have deadlines and time is, we're all under this stress. Well, the only way to get rid of the stress is to go to your inner world and live more of your life. If you can only live 30 seconds in the morning and 30 seconds at night, that's good enough to get you started, because soon mind is going to recognize that as a habit and it's going to say, wait, I should go into my inner world. Let me calm down. Let me relax. And all of a sudden in a few weeks, your subconscious mind starts to guide you. It's like you're leaving yourself a message, and that's what the thought matrix really is. It's like you're talking to yourself in the future. I'm going to be healthy here Alan, in the future. You're going to be super healthy. You're going to have abundance. You're going to have great relationships. And I know this is true in the future because I'm doing these things now today. Because if I do these things now today, I know that my future will be all those things that I just promised myself. It's like paying it forward.
Alan, thank you for everything you're sharing with us. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, I would like to talk about the power of listening, NFTs, and have you read from your book if you'd like to do that.
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. Everybody, please stay with us. We're going to hear from some of our sponsors, and then we'll be back to hear more from Alan and Mariska. So do stay with us. Thank you.
Kapayapaan, kapayapaan, kapayapaan.
Diane Floyd Bame's A Song of Peace tells the story of a young lad named Tommy whose fervent wish for peace on earth touches the hearts of his friends and family, spreads to his community, and eventually unites the whole world around making his dream of peace a reality for everyone. Sit down with the children in your life and share Tommy's amazing story of love and hope. Sing your own song of peace and invite the children to join you. Tommy's tale is more than just a story. It's a movement, and everyone's warmly welcome to take part.
Kapayapaan, 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 kapayapaan.
You'll find A Song of Peace, along with many other wonderful learning and enriching opportunities for children of all ages, at DianeFloydBame.com.
Take a moment.
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 So I've had the privilege of photographing some incredible people over the years, and during each shoot I've asked the subject to close their eyes and take themselves to a peaceful place just for a few seconds. I've found that this really helps to refresh the energy between the camera and the subject. They had an energy that was quite special and quite different from the rest of the shoot. The collection grew, and now it feels the right time to use it for something good. I think it'd be amazing if we could help to raise awareness and involve people in the discussion about mental health. So what we're asking to do is for everyone to upload their own self-portraits. All of these portraits will become part of a massive artwork. I'm really excited to see this project go from hundreds of pictures to thousands of pictures. Essentially, an ever-evolving artwork that says we're all in this together.
Close your eyes and take a moment.
Hello, hello, and welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is Leadership of the Heart. Here joining me for a lively conversation is my co-host, Mariska Duprier, and our guest, Mr. Alan Gordon. Alan is the founder and author and podcaster and visionary about everything that has to do with looking within and finding that utopia that we all create. So thank you for being here, Alan.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you both.
Thank you. And we're going to be talking about the power of listening. So I know what that means to me because I teach people how to listen, but I've always thought to myself, why aren't we taught this when we're in school? Just like some of these other things we're discussing today. So what does it mean to you to have the power of listening as a skill set, Alan?
So my involvement with listening, or my appreciation of listening, goes way back. I used to work for a large corporation, and I did a training class called Level 5 Listening. And I would go around the room. So I'd meet with a group of people, managers, 15, 8, 10, 12 people. I'd meet with them. We go around the room, introduce yourself. And then I would ask them, please name for me the one best listener in your life. And then give me one word to describe that listener. So people would introduce themselves and say, oh, my fourth grade teacher, and she was, compassionate, or my sister, and she was, very smart, or my uncle, whoever it might be. So I learned two things from that. Number one, never did I go around the room and did anybody say, there's so many good listeners in my life, I just can't pick one. It's such a rare skill to have, and it so separates you from everybody else when you can master the skill of listening. And number two, every time somebody described the best listener, without any exception, it was an incredibly positive word. So what does that say to us, right? So if I would learn how to listen, I would be memorable in people's lives, and they would describe me with a positive word. Well, what more can you want? So I started to teach the skill of listening, and I developed it and refined it over many years. And my background is mostly in sales. And as I teach salespeople, as I myself went through my sales career, I found that simply listening would dramatically change the nature of the conversations that I was having. So if I could show you just kind of this example, right? So the customer comes to the sales call all bundled up. They have their preconceived notions, and they don't want to be talking to a salesperson. Salesperson just wants to talk about the product and move on and get the contract. Well, what I found was the more I talk, the tighter the customer holds on to their information, the more they go within. The more I listen, the customer gradually opens up. And as you get better and better, until finally, you're just having a person-to-person conversation. And now, as an experienced salesperson, you can move the conversation wherever it needs to go next. But the goal, the key, was to let the customer release all of their psychic energy, and just help. That just makes them feel comfortable. And it gives people a limbic response when they're listened to. When somebody listens to you very thoroughly and you feel, wow, that felt really good. It's a limbic response that causes you to like the other person and trust them and follow them. Listening is a very powerful skill. And as you said, Dr. JACALYN, why on earth we don't teach this to our children, why we don't teach it to our parents? Because parents don't really listen to their kids. They're just always trying to solve the problem. Stop, do this, stop. Very rarely will you see a parent where a little 2 or 3 year old will come up and start talking to them, where they just stop, listen, make eye contact, and let the child express themselves, and then they can run off and keep playing. There usually is no problem. They just wanted to say something. So I think listening is extremely powerful. It can be taught. It can be learned. It takes a while to learn. I'm from New York, so I love to talk really fast and, finish people's sentences for them. So I'm a good test case. But when you learn how to listen, it just changes the nature of all your relationships.
Really valid points that you made there. And my career was in sales also. And it's interesting. The feedback that I received was that I was always an inch deep and a mile wide. So I was like all over the place, but that I was a good listener and asked powerful questions, which I guess helped me get to this stage. But my question for you, Alan, and also for Mariska, is so many people, when I say so many, because I teach this course, so many people think they're already good listeners, and they're not. They're multitasking, they're judging, they're coming up with solutions, they're trying to outdo the other person's story. But yet you can't actually get through to them for them to consider that there are other skills as a listener that would really benefit them and their relationships. What are your thoughts about that, Alan? And I'll go to Mariska.
Yes, I think learning to listen is difficult. It requires inner change. You have to change who you are. Okay. So we're all focused on the outer world. So we are creating a vibration constantly, and we're broadcasting that vibration to everybody. So if, as a salesperson, I get somebody on the phone, I just want to tell them everything I know because, oh, this is going to be great for you. Don't worry about it. That's not what they want to hear. They need to talk. They need to express. So it is difficult. And I came up with, 3 keys. And Dr. JACALYN, you may have different keys that you teach, but I teach empty. Let go of your vibration. Don't give out any vibration. Just empty yourself. Put your agenda behind you. This, the customer is the most important thing, or the child is the most important thing, or my wife right now is the most important thing. So empty yourself, empathize, say, oh yeah, that I understand that. Tell me more. What do you mean? Tell me more. Wow, that must have been tough. Empathize with them, and then really ask those insightful questions that get them to really think about things that from a different perspective, some things they hadn't thought about, or just get them to release more information so that you can, puzzle out what the solution might be for them.
Thank you, Alan. Mariska, your thoughts?
I have to say, I see it on a regular basis that people struggle to listen. So working with leaders, they want to get into coaching their team, but for most of us, we try to solve problems. And because we're trying to solve problems, as soon as we hear that piece where we go, oh, I know how to solve this, I know what to do, we stop listening. So one of the things that I normally would suggest people do is, 1, be curious, and 2, listen to understand exactly what is going on. The thing that the person wants to solve, as Alan mentioned earlier on with children, they might just want to have a discussion. They might just want to say something. And as soon as they said it, they're happy. There's nothing to solve. There's nothing else to do about it. But they wanted to feel heard. And we don't feel heard. We don't have somebody that listens. So, yeah, that would be my main ones.
It really is a very rare skill, and it's something that really more people should take the time to develop. And I one other thing, if I may, I've studied thousands of sales calls recordings, and what I found is that people speak in 2 parts. So you'll ask them a question, what type of problems have you had with your manufacturing? Well, they'll share one sentence, and then you'll jump, oh, well, you won't have that problem with our widget. We're going to solve that. So you listen to them, but then you jumped in with your solution. But what I found was that people speak in 2 parts. So they tell you the first part of the problem. If you don't say anything, they'll tell you much more. And then some people will speak in 3 or 4 parts. So just learning to listen, just learning how to empty yourself and not come in there with the solution. Same thing with children. Maybe the child is just angry or upset. Okay, tell me more about that. Okay, great. And then they're fine. All they wanted to do was express themselves. And then when they get asked 20 years later, name the best listener in your life, it'll be my mom or my dad, because the person actually took the time to. And listening is respecting somebody. That's another thing. When you're not listened to, like a salesperson doesn't listen to the customer and just launches into the sales pitch, the customer feels disrespected. And it's the same thing with children. It's the same thing with husbands and wives. When you listen to somebody, you're giving them your attention and respect.
Yes, brilliant. I love that. Thank you. We have 2 other topics that I'd like to cover before we close out. And the first one is NFTs, and I've pulled up your website. But for people who are not aware of what they are, can you share a little bit of background, and then we'll take a look at your site?
Yeah. So first of all, NFTs are a new model of money. It's a new way of thinking. It's almost like an inner way of thinking about money. And unfortunately, most people over 40 are at risk of not getting involved at all. Like, okay, that's for young people, or, apes and monkeys and weasels and flamingos, that's not for me. And in the way it's marketed and presented, it isn't for me. It isn't for my generation. It's for a bunch of young people but then every week they say, this one made $1 million, that one made $1 million. Well, there's something going on. There's a reason that people are making money through NFTs. NFTs represent, for people that don't have money, for people whose families don't come from money, they don't have a large amounts of capital, NFTs represent the very best way for people without money and without significant capital to create generational wealth. And the reason that is because of the way NFTs are designed. NFTs and cryptocurrency are a little bit different, but if we just focus on NFTs, like for example, the Utopia University NFT, we minted 2,800 coins. That's it, 2,800, that's all there ever will be. Once we sell 2,800 coins, if the 2,800 owners believe that they're valuable, they don't sell them, the price goes up. If the 2,800 owners, I don't care about this, it's not important, they buy it. If it goes up $2, they sell it. What I mean by that is the psychology of the group. The group owners of the NFT actually create the value of NFTs. NFTs are a private collection, no government, no corporation, nobody with a lot of money. Nobody can come in and influence the value of a small collection of NFTs. The value of the NFT, because of the way it's designed on the blockchain, the value of the NFT is decided entirely in the minds and the beliefs of the owners. So as we get owners of NFTs, of Utopia University NFTs, I will personally coach them and explain to them exactly how NFTs work. And the way they work is, if you hold on to it, and if everyone agrees, it's called enlightened cooperation. If we all agree that we hold on to these NFTs, the price goes up. If there's dissension in the group and some people don't care about it, well, then there's a lot available for sale and the price kind of stagnates. But when we all believe that the price will go up, the price will go up. This is exactly what happened with the Bored Ape Yacht Club. They branded themselves as a financial mastermind group, so everyone wanted to get in. And now you're in and you're part of a financial mastermind group. You're never going to sell. And if you don't sell and nobody else sells, guess what? The value of the NFT goes up.
That was a fantastic explanation. I actually learned more from what you just said than some people that we've had discussing it. So we're going to take a look at your website and you'll walk us through what we're seeing. So just give me 1 minute.
Sure. And also, while you're bringing that up, I also want to add that we are offering free NFT support discussion to anybody in the world. You don't have to be a member of Utopia University, but if you just want to learn how to because opening the accounts is complicated. Everything about it is complicated. And the reason it's complicated is because it uses terminology that we're not familiar with. So the people that are most comfortable with it are the people that don't have bank accounts and don't have IRAs and 401ks. You know, they're from a younger generation that has not participated, so they don't mind doing things differently. For me, I don't want to give my bank account away. You know, there's so many, the whole universe of NFTs is different and somewhat uncomfortable.
And Alan, I just want to share something with you. You just hit the nail on the head. I actually went to register and I went through, I downloaded the app. I forget what it is. And then when it came to putting in the bank information, I was like, oh, and I just closed it out. I didn't do anything.
So our help group is going to help people. I think it's mostly people from, you know, my own generation, our generation, who simply haven't gotten involved yet. But it's really, I've interviewed lots of people in their 20s and they go, yeah, it sounds great, but I don't understand it. We all need to understand it because real estate transactions, financial soon you're going to be buying airline tickets and hockey tickets with NFTs. You have to learn. I would encourage everybody over the age of 40, come to our NFT support group, learn how to set up those accounts. We're not going to push you into one NFT or another. Buy our NFT. Wait, we're not going to do that. But we just want you to get involved so you can participate in the next 20 years of the economy.
Sounds like a good thing to do. All right. Help me. Guide me where I should go.
Sure.
Here.
Just keep scrolling down and you'll see that what we did is we created 7 NFTs and we created them around 7 enlightened principles.
Okay.
Compassion, generosity, and you can keep flipping down, gratitude. Look for things to be grateful for. That's something I said in the cycle of mind. Mind will follow, will do whatever you tell it to do. So tell mind to find things to be grateful for, and you'll be amazed at how many things there are to be grateful for. Health is a super important inner value, very, very important. Helping others, just lifting other people up, giving people a break, teaching them something, finding a motivating life purpose. This kind of sweeps you off your feet. And finally, trust. So those are the 7 enlightened values. That's what the NFTs are about. So instead of cats and flamingos and mutant robots, we chose to create artwork that people would actually feel some value and connection with. like enlightened principles of trust and gratitude and generosity, also things that parents and grandparents will want to pass on to their children and their grandchildren. So we believe that these NFTs, aside from being beautiful artwork, also represent values that people will want to connect with. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the artist is Beatrice Mello from Brazil.
Thank you for sharing that. I look at these and I'm really drawn in. And so just to explain to people who are in, NFTs 101 minus 100, I think. So you actually come here and you purchase this. There's 300 of them. That's it, right? Just 300.
300
And then
copies of that particular NFT.
Of this. So you own this. And how does it get sent to you?
Well, it can get complicated. That's why we want to help people set up the accounts.
Okay.
So rather than go through OpenSea and MetaMask and Coinbase, you do need those different accounts. That's really the big hurdle for most people, certainly people my age, is getting those accounts in place. But once you have the accounts in place, then you can go shopping and you can really buy any NFT you want. But once you have the money in your wallet, but converting from fiat dollars into crypto dollars, it can be confusing. It was confusing for me, and that's why I want to turn around and help other people figure this out so they can get in on the next element in the economy.
Thank you so much for that, Alan. I'm just thinking in my head, just trying to process it as maybe some other people are. So let's say, for example, you are a jeweler and you make custom pieces and you're going to design a specific bracelet that represents something, and you're only going to make so many of them. Can that be an NFT, or is something that's virtual or digital only?
Typically, NFTs are files. I'm not an expert on knowing about NFTs, like for representing actual baseball cards, or an NFT representing an actual asset, like you talk about jewelry. Typically, NFTs are files. So inherently, they have absolutely no value. No value whatsoever. They're just a file. I can send you the file and you can have it, but you don't own it, right? So you're not an owner. But NFTs allow you through the blockchain to actually stake a claim to one of those 300, or you can buy all 300 of them. You own them and nobody can take them away from you. And also, this is really important, it's an open market. It's a global market. No rich person, corporation, or government can influence the price of your NFT. Unlike Bitcoin, which can be influenced by the price of gold or the price of fiat currency, and that Bitcoin's a whole separate conversation. That's not an NFT, it's a cryptocurrency. But NFTs cannot be manipulated by the outside market. That's why they represent an opportunity for people that don't have money and have never had access to money. Because if I go into the stock market, my odds, it's like walking into a casino in Las Vegas, my odds of making money are pretty low, right? Because they know the game's fixed against me. If I walk into the stock market and try to pick AT&T, IBM, Apple, I know nothing, right? I don't know what's going to happen. And the reality is that there are very large rich people and rich corporations that do know what's going to happen to the price of the stock. So you can't win as an individual, as a small investor. NFTs are the opposite. You can win because you can know, because you're watching this podcast right now, you can go buy that NFT and nobody can take it away from you. And it really is an open, fair, and balanced market that anybody, regardless of their wealth, can become wealthy.
And Alan, how can we take your course?
Well, you would just join the discussion. You can join as a member. We charge $19 a month to be a member of Utopia University, or you can join as a guest. The first thing when you join, you're going to get an invitation to a Discord group. Again, I know that's another hurdle for people over 40 is getting onto Discord, but we'll help you with that too. So we'll get you onto Discord, and once you're there, you're now part of the conversation. You can ask whatever questions you want. But what our goal, of course, is to take members and help them turn around and volunteer to help other people, not only with NFTs, but whatever crisis people are going through. There's a lot of suffering and a lot of struggling, and we really want our members to turn around and offer an ear to listen. So we teach them, listen before you talk. Make sure that whatever, you don't know who that person coming into that Discord group today is. They could be going through some sort of trauma, or maybe they're just here for NFTs. Find out why they're here, and then we can talk to them. So we really want to practice what we preach about compassion and generosity.
That definitely comes through, and I'm looking forward to taking the course and learning more. And something I just want to share with people is, when there is an opportunity to learn and there's new technology, many times we psych ourselves out. Oh, I can't do it. Well, now you can't. Now in that frame of mind, you can't because you're not open. But we all have the capacity to learn new things. And when you think about it, just in that regard, to what you spoke about, Alan, the future you has NFTs. The future of you's created NFTs. You are a compassionate person, and you do know how to listen well. So I think we should put it like that for you to open up and be curious to learn more.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think we absolutely have to change the way we think. And it's stunning when you start to realize how locked in we are to routines and habits, and I call them social mantras. And these social mantras change very slowly. They change generationally. They don't change in 5 minutes, and yet your entire life you're held down by this social mantra that says you can't, you don't, it's not for you, it's for somebody else. And so it's just a mantra. It's nothing. All you got to do is just let go of it and recreate the mantra from within. You create your own vibrations. Don't allow the vibrations of society to tell you what to do or where you fit in. You control your future.
Well said.
Love it.
Alan, I would love for you to read from your book as we close out. We have a show right after this, but let us hear what you've written.
Well, gosh, that was a tough one. When you said that during the break, I'm like running around trying to find it. So I want to talk a little bit about mind, okay? Because we live in a mental universe. It's very difficult to grasp because we're all focused on the outer world. We're focused on the illusion, if you will. But for thousands and thousands of years, enlightened people have understood that the outer world is an illusion, and the illusion is created by our collective thoughts, our collective mind. And so what I discovered was in studying this, that mind creates the form and energy fills the form. So mind, energy, reality are the same thing. And I may be going a little too deep, but I will read this. This is from the Cycle of Mind. At the ultimate boundary between mind and reality, the thought patterns in the subconscious mind, always changing, convert to energy with the same pattern. And that energy provides structure to reality. Reality, people, matter, circumstances, is an exact replica of the contents of the collective subconscious mind at that exact moment. So we are a product of our thoughts. We are a product of our social mantras that have guided us, or they're like the guardrails that hold us in place, but all they are is thoughts. All they are thoughts. And if we can change those thoughts from within, we can always change our outer experiences.
Well stated. Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful guest, and I know we're just skimming the tip of the iceberg, so I hope you'll come back and see us again.
I would love to. Wonderful folks. And I would say too, Dr. JACALYN, if I may,
yes.
You offering people a platform is such a blessing. And, and I know you know that, the value of helping others, the value of being generous, in one of the NFTs that you showed, we didn't talk about it, but it says generosity enlightens the giver as much as it delights the receiver. So when you give, you're enlightening yourself. You're not only lifting other people up, but you know this. You're doing a wonderful thing, and I just think it's a wonderful thing that you're giving other people a platform. Just keep it up. It's great work.
Oh, thank you. Make me cry. It's really beautiful. Alan, I want to spotlight you, and if you can share with our audience, what's the best way for people to reach out to you, and who would you like to connect with?
Well, the best way to reach me would be on utopiauniversity.org. You can join the discussion on Discord. You can join, as I said, as a paying member or just as a guest. That would be the best way to reach me and to reach our organization. I would like to spotlight, since we talked about NFTs, let's focus on that. If you have thought about NFTs, realize it's probably a good idea, but it's a little too complicated for you, or you don't understand it, or you need somebody you can trust to explain it to you, come see us, come into our NFT support group, and we will help you work through that so that, again, you can participate for the next 20 years in the NFT aspect of our economy. It's coming. Whether you're ready for it or not, it's coming.
Thank you. That's always the way it is. Whether you're ready or not, folks, look out. Alan, please do come and see us, whether it's on this show or any of our other shows. We'll be happy to meet with you again and hear what you're up to.
Love talking with you. Thank you.
Love speaking with you as well. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Lovely man. I just really appreciate what he's doing. And Mariska, we have to close out quickly. So I'm going to spotlight you. If you can share with our audience, what's the best way to connect and who should reach out?
Okay, best way to connect, you guys can do it via my website or alternatively my email. So that my email is mariska@journey2discover.com, or alternatively connect via LinkedIn. And people that can reach out is anybody going through transitions. So if you're moving in your career or even your space itself, or anyone within leadership. And that's me.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'll see you again soon.
Yes, you will.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening. I really appreciate having you here as we continue to grow. One little self-promotion. My second book came out and I got my first copy the other day. I think it was 2 days ago. So this book is 12 chapters. It contains 12 chapters. The first chapter is mine. The title for the people on the radio is Adversity to Awesome. And each chapter contains a different author's story. So I'd love for you to go over to Amazon, and whether you purchase the ebook or you purchase the paperback, this is my second #1 new release in less than 11 months. So I'm really blessed for that. All right, we are signing off and coming back immediately here following with Entrepreneur and so much more. And my co-host is Justin Merigliani. So stay tuned for that. And I'll see you shortly as I go over to the other studio. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Mariska. Thank you to each and every one of you. Bye.